this is Anil with another video tutorial for the Learning Lad on C programming. In this video tutorial we're gonna see the functions in C. A function is a collection of statements that's gonna do some particular task. We can say that every C program is a collection of these functions. Okay, let's see the syntax to write the functions. Let me copy and paste. Okay, to use a function or to define a function, first we need to write the return type, then the function name, then within this parenthesis we have to specify the parameters for the function, then within this curly braces we have to write the function body. So this return type is the value that is returned by this function, the type of value. So if you are returning an integer value from a function, then you have to use this return type as int. For floating value you have to use float, and for character value you have to use char. And if you are not returning any value, then you have to use the keyword void. The next thing is the function name. So every function should have a name, so we have to specify that function name after this return type. The next thing is within this parenthesis we have to specify the parameters for this function. A function can take any number of parameters. If you want to pass around 10 parameters, you can do that. So let's see how we can use a function in our program. So in this video tutorial we're gonna write a function called display, and we're gonna print something from that function display. So another thing is, before using a function or writing a function, we have to write the prototype of the function. So to do the prototyping, we have to first write this return type, then the function name. It's gonna be display here. Then within this parenthesis we have to specify any parameters. Since display is not gonna take any parameters, we just keep it blank. Then this void here means that our function display is not gonna return any values. Next, after this main function, we're gonna write our display function. It's gonna be void display, then we have to write this function body. Here we just want to print something to the screen, so we're gonna use a print function. Okay, we're gonna write this is printed by a function. Add a new line and save it. All of you know that the execution starts from this main function and it ends here. So if you want to use your user defined function anywhere in your program, then you have to call it inside this main function. So here I'm going to call this display function display, then a pair of curly braces, parentheses, then a semicolon. So here within this parenthesis, if using any parameters in display function, then we can pass that. So in this case we're not using any parameters, that's why we're gonna leave it blank. So save it, compile it and run it. So as you can see here, this is printed by a function. The next thing I want to tell you in functions is about this function prototyping. By using this function prototyping, we are informing the compiler that okay, we are writing our own function which is called display, and we're gonna define that function somewhere in our source code. So here what happens if we don't use this function prototyping is our compiler is gonna scan all this code from here to here, then it will come here, and here it just came to know that okay, we are using a function called display, and from here to here it hasn't encountered a function called display. That's why it thinks that okay, this is an undefined function, so it's just gonna raise an error. So to avoid that error, we are using this function prototyping. Another thing we can do is we can define this function display before this main function. So I'm gonna cut that print here. So now we have deleted our function prototyping statement and we defined our display function before this main function. So save it, compile and run. As you can see, there is no change in the program. That is because we are using this function after declaring it. So if we use a function before declaring it, then we'll get an error. Another thing I want to tell you about functions in this tutorial is you can use this display function as many times you want. So I'm gonna copy this display function and paste it 2 more times. Save your work, compile it and run it. So as you can see here, we have called this display function 3 times. Another thing is this mainf is also a function. So this mainf is calling this display function. Similarly, we can call this main function from this display function also. The next thing is where we can use this function, or when we can use this function, and what are the uses of these functions. So the uses of function is the function allows you to structure your code like modules. For example, if you are writing a program which has to take some input and display it on the screen, then you can differentiate that input part to in one function and that the display part to another function, and you can use that. So if any error is there in the input part, you can easily track that error and solve it. Another thing is using these functions in your program makes it easy to write. That's because by structuring that, you can concentrate on the particular part at a time. Another use of functions is you can avoid rewriting the same code again and again. For example, in your program, if you are calculating the area of a triangle again and again, so if you are not using that function, then you have to write the same code again and again wherever you are calculating the area. So if you are using a function, then you can place that code in a function, and you just have to call that function where you need it. So this is it, guys. This is about the introduction to the functions. In the next tutorial, we're gonna see some more information about the functions. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next tutorial.